My name is Dwayne Brown, and I'm the founder of Headshots Matter, and this is Studio Talk. Studio Talk is a space where we get to talk with photographers, other creatives, entrepreneurs, and we get to chat a little bit about their creative processes, their successes, their challenges, and perhaps even what it means to make a difference. This morning we have a very special guest, Sean Tucker, who is a photographer, a filmmaker, an author, a publisher, a speaker, and a mentor to a great many photographers around the world through his YouTube channel. I'm very grateful for Sean to make the time this morning to talk with us. I've followed his YouTube channel for many years, like many of you have, and so I'm very grateful to have Sean in. Sean, there you are.
How's it going?
It's going good. Yeah, it always gets a wee bit clumsy at the beginning with these, and thanks for your patience.
No worries.
So how is your Thursday going so far? It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon for you.
Yeah, good. It's been a pretty unproductive day, if I'm honest. Actually, it's
Oh,
been a
is that
slow
right?
start. Yeah, yeah.
As I mentioned in the intro, um, I'm very grateful for you making the time. I know you're a busy dude, and you've got a lot of hats that you wear, and I'm just really grateful for you to spend some time with us. So maybe just to start it off, I'd just like to ask you, what are you working on now, either creatively or logistically, that's exciting you, that's giving you a little bit of fun.
Um, I mean, I've got the normal things that kind of tick over all the time. So there's always sort of street photography going on, and the videos on the YouTube channel are kind of more educational stuff. But I think what's going on that's new. So I haven't talked about this much actually, but I have a book coming out in June,
Yeah,
which I've co-written with a friend of mine, Joshua Jackson, on street photography, but trying to sort of
nice.
take a more artistic
Hmm.
approach to street photography than kind of straight reportage stuff. So being a little more creative with the camera and working with form and color and lights and things like that. So that's coming out in June. So I'm kind of excited to have that out and be I don't know, talking about it, seeing how people connect with it is
Hmm.
always an exciting thing. Yeah,
I,
and
uh,
then
I I remember watching the video of Joshua and you on the streets of London, and super fun. And it's one of my favorite videos that you've done. And the shadows, the what did he call it? The creativity or curiosity gap, right? The
hmm
stuff
hmm
that's sort of kind of that you don't really see, but you imagine.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure doing a book with him. I mean, he's a close friend, and anytime I'm down in London, I'm staying with him, and we'll walk around for hours and hours. I've learned so much from Josh. Like
Hmm.
to be, he hates me saying this, but he also, I'm sure he knows it's true. He's a much better street photographer than I am, and
Hmm.
because it's his sole focus. I mean, I think I do a lot of different sorts of photography, but
Yeah.
Josh is just a street photographer and a purist, and just watching how he works and thinks about stuff and how deep he digs. Like he
Hmm.
constantly challenges me about what I do, and that I've got a lot further to go. And doing this book with him has been really fun. Actually, it's been nice to kind of bring both sides of what we do together.
Hmm.
I took on the bulk of the writing. It's going to be the bulk of Josh's images in there, but I think we produced something that's really strong between the two of us, which is great.
Yeah. I was in London in November to meet up with a bunch of our photographers, and I had an idea what London was going to be like. And to
Hmm.
be honest, I was inspired or influenced by some of the things that I've seen in your videos and that particular one. And then when I got there, it's like it's almost too much to take in. Like it's such a candy store. How do you I don't know, just distill it or see only what matters? It must be quite a challenge.
I think it's about limiting yourself. I think if you walk into any new city, like anytime I visit New York, for example, I feel what you feel
Mm,
about London. It's just too much. And
mm,
and I really enjoy it, but it's very hard to know what to focus on because it's brand new and
yeah.
it's sensory overload. I've got no familiarity with it. But with London, I know I don't shoot everywhere. I know the areas that work for me. And
Yeah.
so I work those areas over and over again to kind of dig deeper and to
Mm,
really get familiar with what's going on and learning, how things move in those areas or how the light moves at different times of day and what options are there for the way
mm,
that I shoot. So I think it's that kind of it is that familiarity over time. I
mm,
mean, Josh's first book he brought out, which was like a monograph. I'll use him as an example. Was called Sleepless in Soho. It's a fantastic book,
mm.
and all the images in that book were taken. Almost all of them were taken in a one block radius, just 4 streets.
Interesting.
So he just focuses down and says, This is my area. I'm going to lock it
Yeah.
off." And I think with creativity, sometimes giving yourself boundaries is very helpful,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
just dug super deep on that area and got to know that space really well and managed to tell great stories out of it.
I think you're absolutely right. Often we think as creative people, or even folks that are just starting out, they feel that creativity means about creating something out of nothing, and there is something to that. But once you put parameters in, like that's almost what commercial photography or commercial design or advertising is about. We have these parameters to sort of fit into, and it's about doing the best you can with what you've got, as opposed to just making things up. And so I can imagine that's helpful with street. Just otherwise, how far do you take it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just gives you focus, doesn't it? Because I think if you're told
Mm,
here's the world, you can take a photograph of whatever you want. You can be paralyzed by having so much choice.
hmm
I was watching it was a masterclass with Alex Soth online,
mm,
the Magnum photographer, and he was talking about his project. Was it Sleeping by the Mississippi, something like that? And
mm.
basically, he picked this instead of just going like I'm just going to go out and take photographs. He says I'm going to go from my home. I think it was Minnesota, and he's going to
Yeah.
he's going to follow the Mississippi River down, and
Mm,
he can only take photographs 100 meters away from the river or less.
mm.
So he's got his boundaries. Like he's given
Yeah.
him. He doesn't know what the topic is yet, and the topic kind of emerges as he saw like Dreamcatcher in a tree or a discarded mattress. This theme of dreams came out, but
Yeah.
he gave himself parameters, so he's got some guardrails, and within that he's looking for something rather than just saying, "I'll
Yeah.
just photograph everything and hope something comes out of it." I think it's a
Mm.
good bit of advice.
Yeah, a long time ago, I used to have this sort of fun. It was kind of before I started really getting to doing kind of what I call photo walks. Is I created this little kind of a self project to kind of just give me something to kind of hone the compositional or sharpen the saw, as we say. It was called Radius. So you got 2 blocks by 2 blocks. You got 2 hours, and go out and see what you can do.
Mm,
And if you can and I tell photographers who are starting out, like if you want to get good at what you do, you got to shoot every day. You got to. So that's actually a kind of a fun exercise, right?
yeah.
It could be trash on a curb, or light on a wall, or reflection in a window, or it's good. It's good fun for not just a street photographer or a creative photographer, but even a commercial photographer. It's just good to be always have the camera up and always looking, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you only learn by taking photographs. You can't watch YouTube tutorials, right? Sit at home and
Yeah,
watching tutorials and think you're learning photography. You learn when you pick the camera up and
yeah.
you take a ton of bad images
Mm,
and you'll learn from those and you just keep going. Like that's the best way to. Any new photographer says to me, "Well, I've just picked up a camera. How do I learn?"
yeah.
Like, watch and read stuff, that's great, but just take a ton of photographs. And
Yeah.
if they're terrible, that's only normal. You'll get there,
Mm.
but just take a lot of photographs because every time you click the shutter, you'll learn something new.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And these days, digital is helpful. I come from the day of shooting film where it was harder to do that,
It's expensive,
but
yeah.
and expensive, and the time in between capturing to looking is it was great, right?
Mm,
Something I wanted to sort of kind of talk to you a little bit about is, when I was researching, all the different sort of things that you do. I actually didn't know you did as much as you do. So, I know you're a photographer. I
hmm
know that you have a background back when you were younger in the seminary and helping people. But you're not just a writer author. You self-publish. You do the magazine. You're doing so. You're wearing so many different hats. Even your website. $100 says you've done it yourself. You may not have, but I just, so out of all of those hats that you wear, which is the one that feels most comfortable to you?
Poor. I think I wouldn't say most comfortable, but I think the one that I feel most accomplished in,
Mm,
and the one that's probably the most important to me is communication, and that
mm,
comes through in a bunch of different ways. So my photography isn't great with communication yet. I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to work out how to get it to say what I want it to say. In a
mm,
lot of ways, I'm still beginning with photography, I feel.
mm,
The videos, that's more deliberate communication. I'm
mm,
often scripting something and making sure I've got a point to give and getting that point across. If I speak in public, it's the same thing. If I write a book or write a magazine, it's the same. So, like,
mm,
as a theme, the thing that's most important to me, and I probably see myself as a communicator before a photographer, to be honest,
mm.
is communicating, and it all comes back to when I worked for the church. I mean, I
Yeah.
throughout my 20s, my job was, within the church. I was in charge of youth and young adults, so that's anybody basically 35-year-old and under,
Mm,
and I my deepest joy in that was being able to help people who maybe felt anxiety about their own lives, and
mm,
help them to kind of get a handle on it and think it through better. And
mm,
so I feel like everything I'm doing now, even though I don't work for the church anymore, obviously, everything I'm doing now comes from the same place. It's
yeah.
just trying to communicate things I think I've found helpful, and that's the thread that kind of runs under a
Mm.
lot of the things that I do. They're all kind of modes to get that message out for me.
How do you how do you handle the how do you protect your heart? Like you must get a lot of people that you present a video, it resonates with them, they
Mhm.
connect with you, and they sort of see you as this person that can be helpful to them. It must be at times a bit of weight on the shoulders.
Well, but the other side is true as well. I mean, there'll be lots of people who watch videos and go, "What a
Yeah.
pretentious twat! Like, who is this guy?" Do you know what I mean? So it goes both ways. Some people
Yeah,
love it, some
yeah,
people hate it, some people don't
yeah,
care, some people
yeah.
like it. Like, it doesn't really matter to me,
Mm,
that
mm,
stuff. I mean, I say that obviously, I still go through the ups and downs. If someone
mm,
leaves something very positive or very negative, that can affect you in different ways, of course. But
yeah.
like, I think more and more over the years, I've learned to kind of back myself
Mm,
in knowing that what I have to say is important to at least somebody else out there and will really
mhm.
make a difference. And I've now been doing it long enough that I've had enough feedback to know that, yeah, this stuff hits with a lot of people. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people it doesn't hit with, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's not supposed to be for everybody. It's supposed to be, to be frank, it's supposed to be for people like me. Because
yeah,
when I started teaching myself photography on YouTube, which is how I learned, I didn't go and study it.
yeah.
There weren't a lot of channels that talked about why I should even pick up a camera in the first place, or
Mm,
what my subject should be, or what I should be trying to say with this. There wasn't enough of that. There were 1,000 videos out there telling me which camera to buy and the top 10
yeah.
tips. And I always felt like I wanted to make videos or write stuff that help people like me. And
Mm,
so when someone loves it or hates it, I just know whether they've got the same sensibility as me or not whether
sure.
I did a good or bad job.
Yeah,
That's a different thing. And
yeah.
I'm a very hard critic on myself. I'm the first to call myself out
Mm,
on if I've done a bad job. So I don't take it too seriously, and I don't see it as a. I know some people do say this, like, some people often get hold of me and go, you should be talking about this. You've got a responsibility. You've got an audience, or you should be talking about this topic. And I
mm,
don't
mm.
agree with that. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't agree. I have a responsibility beyond talking about the things I think are important.
yeah,
Like, I don't have to talk about all the other stuff that other people think are important that they think I should talk about. That's different. That's for them to
yeah.
talk about. So I keep it quite self-contained and just chat about the stuff that I feel has been helpful to me, and hope it lands with the right audience.
I think it's interesting that you impact a lot of different people, not just folks that are kind of trying to find their creative voice or to learn about photography. Like, I think that you also impact photographers who have been doing it a really long time. I've been shooting for about 42 years, and I think when I first saw your videos, it might have been 10 or 12 years ago, and I didn't need to learn about photography, but I
Hmm.
really enjoyed learning about I don't know, the confidence and inspiration, or just just I guess just finding that sort of part of it, the inspiration, the create, not the creativity, but just I guess yeah, just how to feel good with what I'm doing.
Mm,
And there's certain ones that, one of the ones that I remember really resonated with me, and it was a couple of years ago. You were talking about prime lenses, and all photographers, we have our little tips and tricks that we kind of do. And when I go do my personal stuff, I'd always have a zoom, so because it's flexible, and if this scene isn't really working, I can go wide. And you said, maybe try prime.
mm,
And the one thing you said, it's gonna suck at first. It's not
mhm,
gonna be fun. And I picked up a prime for my personal camera, and I went out, and yeah, it wasn't very fun.
mhm,
But
mhm,
now it's all I shoot with. It's
mm,
about switching lenses, kind of a little old school, right?
mm.
And it just makes you think a little differently, or just handle the scene a bit differently. Yeah, it's quite
Yeah.
fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
quite
I
fun.
like it because as a photographer, you're always trying to work out kind of, especially with street, I think you're trying to work out what your visual voice is,
Mm, hmm,
And I
hmm.
think that for some people, not for everybody, because there's nothing wrong with shooting with a zoom on the street either, but like I think for some people that's one of the missing ingredients is working out what that focal length is
Hmm.
that represents the way you see. Some people just see in scenes, and so 28 mil really suits them, but some people
Mm.
see the details, and so 85 might suit them, and some people, are 35 or 50, somewhere in the middle. I mean, for
Yeah,
me personally, my sweet spot I know is 50. That's my favorite focal length. That's the one I feel most connected to, and I feel like it
sure.
represents how I see, and it really helps with that consistency and that voice. I think when you sort of
Yeah.
commit to something, and also it's like what we talked about before, isn't it? It's like guardrails. It's like I can't take photographs more than 100 meters from the river. It's just saying I can only
Yeah.
take photographs in 50. I'm going to use that limitation to help
Yeah.
focus me. I
Yeah.
can't shoot this big scene. I can only shoot this way because this is my focal length. What can
Mm.
I get out of it here? And that pushes you to
Mm.
develop and work out what your eye is.
How does when you go out for a walk, a photo walk, how does how you feel impact what you come home with? Is that come into play?
Um, Not really. No. In a weird way, no. I mean, the thing, I suppose if you're having a good day or a bad day, like in general,
Yeah.
I think it can affect how long I want to stay out and shoot.
Mm.
It can affect, when I want to give up and go home, those kind of things. But it
Yeah.
doesn't really affect as much what I see, and it doesn't really affect as much the way that I shoot. I
Mm.
might be more experimental on days where I feel good and
Mm.
feel up. I might be willing to take more risks. That might be true.
Mm.
But I think, no, I think it depends what it is, doesn't it? I think street, like, um, what you see is what you get on a day. And whether you're in a
Mm.
good mood or a bad mood, you're going to grab what it gives you because why would you
Sure.
miss it? Why would you not take it? So that doesn't change too much. And when it comes to portraits, I think for me, portraiture is a
Mm.
responsibility in the moment.
Mm.
Like I've got a
Mm.
subject sitting there and I need to do them a good service. And that's whether they're paying me or not. I take
Mm.
that stuff very seriously. So I'm quite hard on myself about it. It doesn't matter how I feel today. I'm here to do a
Yeah.
job and I'm here to
Yeah.
serve this person who's sitting here because they're willing to sit here and be vulnerable in front of this camera.
Mm.
So I don't think I take better or worse images depending
Mm.
on that for portraits. So yeah, I don't think it affects what the images look like. It might just affect how long I give to it on a day, maybe.
Mm. What I think is an interesting thing that comes out of that is that to be a commercial photographer is different than being just a personal photographer. Right? When you're a personal photographer, whether it's street or people or architecture or landscape, you're going to go and you're going to go do what you do, and you're going to get what you get, and you're going to come home with something or not. But when you're a commercial photographer, portrait photographer, you have to be creative on demand, right? You have
Yeah.
to, as you say, there's a great responsibility when you're either doing a portrait, whether it's for an ad or for a corporate, yeah, thing, or headshots. There's a great responsibility with that, which makes me think of, like, when I was researching to build a talk to you. I read your book, or I read a good portion of the book, the meaning in the making, and
Oh,
one of
great.
the things, yeah, it's for anyone's watching this. get the book. It's a good one, Sean.
Thank you.
It's it it's it's it's
Yeah.
it's personal. It's vulnerable. It's good. And it helped me kind of feel like I got into your head a bit. Like I feel like even though we've never met in person, because of
Hmm.
all your YouTube videos, I feel like I kind of know you. But
Hmm.
now I really feel like I know you after the book.
Mm-mm-mm.
And one of the things that I pulled from the book that I wanted to remember to ask you about is room 22 still a very important place for you to go and spend time? And
Yeah, I
if
mean,
so, why? Maybe you can explain what room 22 is.
yeah, room 22 is it's the room where they had the Rembrandts in the National Gallery in Trafalgar
Hmm,
Square. So for me, it was I do still pop in there every now and again and just have a sit. It was those portraits from Rembrandt, and looking at those portraits that taught me how to undo a lot of the ways that I've made my portraits over technical.
hmm,
Because I think there was a stage, and we all do this. Like when I started out, it was all natural light and just shallow depth of field. That's all I knew how to do.
hmm,
And then the first time I picked up a strobe or a speed light, I was like, oh my gosh, I could do this. And
hmm.
then you get overexcited, and then you start buying 5, 6 speed lights and gelling them all, and lots of different angles and tons of
Sure.
different modifiers. And my portraits got so overly complicated for a while and messy because of it, I think.
Yeah.
No criticism of anyone who likes to shoot that way, but it's not for me. And I remember it was sitting in that room in the National Gallery that I looked around these portraits, and I've always thought they are so compelling, not because
Hmm,
they're beautiful. It's the wrong word, because he's often not trying to make people look beautiful. He's often being searingly honest, especially about
hmm,
age, right? There's a lot
hmm,
of
hmm.
texture and grit in these portraits, but they were so compelling to look at. And then I just had this moment of realization, like, how many lights is he using?
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
using one because he doesn't
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
lights. He's using the
Yeah.
light coming in through the window. He might be
The
shaping it with
sun.
shutters a bit, but he's just using the light
Hmm.
coming in through the window. It's one light. And I thought, well,
Yeah.
if that can be done with one light, why am I using five with different colors on it? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was the moment I stripped everything back to one light. And I still shoot most portraits one light these days, because I just
Hmm.
find it again, it's that same limiting it down and focusing
Yeah.
on the person, taking the technical out, just focusing on the person, putting that light. You have to be very careful with the positioning when you've got one light. It really matters.
Hmm.
But it becomes quite moody, quite dramatic, which is something I like to see in a portrait. I don't mind like shadows. I think a lot of people don't want deep shadows. I want them. I look at them in Rembrandt's paintings and I love them. I
Hmm.
think they look gorgeous. And just working with that, I think, had taught me how to simplify and hopefully make those portraits I was making more powerful.
Yeah.
That's why
I
that's why that room matters. Yeah.
I think when a photographer can go super super simple on the light, and I agree. If you can use one light, use one light. And
Yeah.
when the portrait isn't about the complexities of light, and it's beautiful when people do that, but when it's not about that,
Mm.
then it's about the person, and
Yeah.
it's about the connection, and it's about what you're seeing in the eyes, and it's about that person having this calmness and this I don't know, this true connection, not even with the photographer. That I remember a long time ago, I was told, if you can do a portrait and capture someone so it feels like nobody is in the room, not even you, that's
Hmm.
kind of cool. Like that's very intimate. That's very personal. And so I agree. I love just the simplicity of light. And even if, even when we do corporate commercial headshot stuff, I will try my best to just to keep it simple. It's also less intimidating for the person that's in front of your
Yeah.
camera, right? And that's a great responsibility and care to have, to make sure that they're not intimidated with the whole deal.
Yeah, we don't often think about that. We think about it's just about me and my art and getting the image I need out of this person. But,
Hmm,
I encourage portrait photographers all the time to go for portraits themselves, to go and sit
hmm,
for a portrait, to remind yourself how uncomfortable it is.
yeah.
It's not a happy place to be for most of us. It's a
Hmm,
difficult, revealing place to be. And thinking about their experience.
hmm,
I mean, this is why, honestly, I don't shoot strobe in my studio anymore. I shoot constant light now, because
right.
I realized that a lot of people, when I photograph them with strobes, I still use
Hmm,
strobes outdoors, but like indoors, photographing with a strobe, you get this sense that they're constantly being flashed in the face. That's not a fun thing to be sitting on the end of, and they start to
hmm,
tense.
yeah.
It's harder for them to relax because they start to anticipate that flash, and you can feel that tension. Whereas
Hmm,
if I feel like if I've got a constant light on them, the
Mm.
subject often ends up relaxing a bit more and settling
Mm.
into it because that's just the light in the space now. And then
Yeah.
they relax into just being themselves and not thinking about the light more
Yeah.
quickly. So little things like that. I mean, that works for me. It doesn't work for everybody, but like that's been like a little thing for me. You know, getting the right music on, having the right temperature, and all those little things. Like, how can I make you feel
Yeah.
comfortable so you can put yourself across in this space? I think is something we should always think about.
Do you do you find it easy for yourself, the type of person you are, to when someone sits in front of you and you notice that, their lips quivering a bit or they're feeling very nervous, to disarm them? Is that do you enjoy that part of the process?
Yeah, and I've gotten a lot better at it, you know, and
Mm.
I think that the key for me was my degree in university was psychology,
Yeah.
and so you know we got involved in a lot of counselling and stuff through that, and then I worked for the church for 10 years. There was lots of counselling in that, and recently,
Mm.
a couple of years ago, I went off and did some training to be a counsellor in the UK as well,
Mm.
and I realised that most portrait sessions are like therapy sessions,
Yeah.
right? Because you're sitting there across from somebody who you're asking to open up
Mm.
and you're asking to bare themselves a little bit, bare their souls a little bit. And so making that safe space, being super professional, you know,
Mm.
but also being warm enough that they feel comfortable to share with you. It's all the
Hmm.
same principles, you know, and
Mm.
I think that I've gotten better when I realize that it is actually a very similar set of tools
Mm.
that get the best stuff out of it. And yeah, I mean, because anybody who is a portrait photographer will know you get somebody sitting across from you um, who needs the portrait but doesn't really want to be there. Every
Yeah.
single flaw that they think of themselves,
Mm.
that's all they're going to be looking for if they see those images. Oh, that's that
Yeah.
flaw that I know about myself. No one else notices those. No one else
Yeah.
sees them in their life, but it's all they are able to see. And I
Mm.
think being able to get them to a point where they realize that actually this is not something anyone else sees, and they see you the way I see you right now, and it looks great.
Yeah.
If they can get themselves to that point, it's super healing, and it is
Yeah.
therapy. It's therapy. It's like self acceptance at a point. So I think
Yeah.
our job as portrait photographers, if we're paying attention and not just out to get the shot, and
Mm.
actually being kind to the person sitting across from us
Mm.
and taking our role seriously, I think we get to do a little bit of that healing with them, where they can accept themselves a bit more.
Yeah. I think it's a great responsibility, to have someone in front of your camera, and it's as soon as they walk in the door, your work starts, right. It's about identifying how they feel. One of the things that we do when we whether I do mostly corporate portraiture headshots. There's
Mm.
always going to be something that somebody is wearing, mostly on the female side of things, whether there's some earrings or a pendant or something, and you'll pick up on it, and then you go out on a little bit of a limb and you comment on it, and
Hmm.
before you know it, yeah, that's very important. You talk about that. You talk a little bit about who they are, who their kids are, and before you know it, you're shooting, and then they don't even know that you're shooting, and before you know it,
Hmm.
they're telling you things that
Hmm.
are pretty vulnerable,
Yeah.
and it's cool. And when people tell me that if this is uncomfortable, I tell them it's supposed to be,
Hmm.
because as a human being, we don't sit in front of something for a long period of time and be captured. If you're looking off, that might be more natural, and so yeah, so a port, but you still need to do it as a portrait photographer, but it takes a little bit of time to figure out how to do that, right.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of become. It's like it becomes a confessional, right? Or
Yeah.
like you know,
Yeah.
chatting at the bar late night with the bartender because you're just sitting
Mm.
there together, you know, and
Hmm.
things start coming out. I think it can be quite profound for people.
Mm.
Again, you can't be the kind of photographer who's just running around and firing off shots and making it about
Hmm.
you. But if
Hmm.
you give them the space to open up, it can be really powerful. Corporate headshots is tough. I mean, I'm sure like. But I mean, I remember
Mm.
doing corporate headshots, and you don't have a lot of time with each person, so it becomes
Yeah.
more difficult in that scenario. But like when you've got somebody for a half an hour, and it's their
Mm.
session,
Hmm.
like you can really
Yeah.
dig quite deep. And what you said is true as well. You know, start telling about their kids, and then they forget. Like, it's a trick I use often is to just try and work out what their interests are and get them talking about the thing they love, because people
Yeah.
automatically loosen
Yeah.
up. Then there was a stage in London where I photographed the master's students at RADA, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts, and
Right.
the first person who came through for a session told me about this thing that they did. It was like an exercise where they had to be on stage in front of their
Mm,
classmates, and they were given an animal, and they had to physically enact that
mm,
animal on stage without making a sound or a noise. And they were kind of giggling about this, and I just logged that away. And I thought,
yeah,
if I get into trouble with any of these others, I know what to do now. So the next students that came through, if any of the
yeah,
sessions felt a bit stiff,
yeah.
I would say, "Hey, what was your animal?" You know, and then they go, "Oh, how do you know about the animal thing?" And they go, "Oh, you had to be a flamingo. It's ridiculous." And then suddenly they'd loosen up
Yeah,
again because now it's
yeah,
like a thing that they can share, that it was an
mm,
experience to do with something that they love, and suddenly they open up. I
mm,
think little things like that that you learn about getting people to talk about the things that they love,
yeah,
that they feel more comfortable immediately. So it's super helpful. Don't let them interview you about your photography.
yeah,
You turn it round onto them and get them talking about the stuff they love, right? Because
yeah.
otherwise it puts this power dynamic that, yeah, you're coming to me and I'm a big photographer, and yeah, you should. No, no, no. Turn it round. Who are you and what are you interested in? It totally changes the dynamic.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You know, when I talk with younger photographers, I'll talk to them about, in order to do our job well, it's helpful to be emotionally intelligent. Not everybody's born emotionally intelligent. So I say, well, there's some techniques, and you know,
Hmm.
one of the best ones is you ask a question, listen to the answer, ask another question based on that answer, and then do that maybe 3 times. Before
Yeah,
you know it, you know some pretty important stuff about that person,
yeah,
and they feel regarded and they feel a little
yeah.
safer, right? You know, at the end of the day, we're using these mechanical boxes to do something very technical, but it's a human
Hmm.
experience, right? It's human to human. And so if we can bring empathy to that photographic process, that portrait process, it's going to be way better for them. You'll create better photos, but also you'll just they'll have a better experience, and then I think, you know, you'll have a better experience as well.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Um, do you do you see yourself as being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a weird one for me, and I'm in a weird place with all that stuff at the moment because I don't feel. I just feel like I got lucky for a while. Is honestly
Mm,
how I feel about it. Like for
mm,
now, what I do works, and I'll be very honest with you. It gets harder and harder every year
mm,
doing what I've been doing for the last 10 years, and to make it pay the bills. So
mm,
I might have to change stuff in the near future. But
mm,
I don't think I'm a very, and I think a lot of creatives can relate to this. I don't think I'm a very good businessman. I'm not very good
mm,
at marketing myself. I'm not very
mm,
good at the kind of structure of business. I've tried to keep what I do super simple. You know,
mm,
I don't do anything that I can't do myself. I don't hire staff on, but partly
mhm,
because I couldn't afford to hire staff on, obviously. But like it's more to do with like I like to keep things sort of manageable for myself so I can run it myself.
mhm,
And then I think beyond that, like I'm not trying to sort of break the mold or change anything. It really is just about whatever that core message is I'm talking about, to find ways to keep talking about it. I'm not
mm,
very financially ambitious. I'm not looking for fast cars and big houses. I
mm,
really don't care about that stuff. So it's as long as I can keep paying the bills and doing this, that's already
mm.
I'm home. I like that's already me home and dry, and I'm happy. Like I
Yeah,
say, it's getting harder, and I probably will have to change. And I might have to go back and look for a job in a few years, but that's okay because I still had this amount of time
yeah,
to do something I absolutely loved in my life, and that's always a privilege. So I kind of hold all that stuff very loosely, and
mm,
I don't think of myself as a very good. You're never going to catch like the Sean Tucker how to do photography business course out there. It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
me. I'm not that guy, and I feel like an idiot about a lot of it, which is
Mm,
I think why I keep it simple because a lot of it does seem like
mm.
quite intimidating. But yeah, I've kept it very very simple.
I think that most creative people will say what you just said. That say
Mm,
I'm lousy at business. I've
mhm.
been I've had my business for 42 years, and I would still say, yeah, I'm not so good at that side of it. I'm true to what I do, and I love doing what I do, and I love connecting people, and I love photographing people. I love making photographs. I love making people feel comfortable. The business side of it, you know, I don't have fast cars or a big house either. So,
Mhm,
but I don't think that matters. I think as long as
mhm,
our we're true to doing our life's work, I think is important. You know, I was listening to a podcast earlier today, and they were talking about how in this time it's such a it's all about attention, and louder, noisier, bigger, better.
Mm,
That's important. But this podcaster Rich Roll was talking about how that's, excuse the language, that's bullshit. It's
mm,
really, it's very important for us to really learn about who we are as a human, how
mm,
we can help other humans, how we can make a difference. That's the long game.
mm,
That's not the short cash game, right? And so, my advice to you is to just keep doing what you're doing. You've impacted a lot of people's lives, and there's one in particular that I know you guys have become good friends, Sisela
mm,
Johansson, and she struggles a bit with the same thing, right? About,
mm,
she's a
mm.
really, really, really good photographer,
Yeah,
and it's about how do you connect the dots on commerce. And
yeah,
to be an entrepreneur, people say, well, I don't know anything about that. And I always say, well, you like to pay your rent or your mortgage, or you like to have a beer now and then, or buy a lunch. So you got to be kind of creative about how that happens. And
yeah.
but at all times, stay true, right?
Yeah, it's for me. It's always been important to find the kind of. This is why I wrote the book, to find the meaning in whatever I'm doing, because
Mm,
I really think that human beings need meaning. We need
mm,
meaning in the
mm,
in the work that we do as well. And I feel like if you do chase the money of
mm.
something and that becomes the goal, you'll never have enough, and you'll always be chasing. And because there's no amount that's this line, magical line that you cross over and goes, oh, there it is, that was enough. You'll always want the next rung. But if
Yeah,
you look for meaning, I think you can find enough, because
yeah.
I can get an email from somebody who heard me say something and it meant something to them on that day, and they tell me a story about what it meant and how it helped
Mm,
them. That's me maxed. I don't care how much money I made out of that. That's
mm,
that's me feeling fulfilled immediately. That's enough. And as long as like the practical stuff is taken care of and I can pay the bills,
yeah,
doing that and having those responses, that's everything, right?
yeah,
Is so yeah, I couldn't agree with that podcast more. Like I think that's how we're wired,
yeah.
and why so many people chase the stuff, the kind of the fame and the fortune stuff, and always find themselves dissatisfied. We know by now that's not
mm,
going to make you feel better. You have to have a
yeah.
meaning as well if you're going to go
Yeah,
for it.
and I think if you're chasing that meaning, and if that meaning to you is to make a difference in people's lives or a person's life, in order to fill that cup up, like that's going to give you, I don't know, more energy to fill the cup up more.
Yeah,
Like money is it's trite. It's shallow. It's not shallow, but it's not something that really gives great fulfillment, right? It
yeah,
just takes care of, buy stuff. It's a means to an end.
yeah.
So if it's a means to an end, well, what's the end? So let's focus on the end. What's really truly important to us as people first, and as photographers, man, we got such a great responsibility to use our talent to do good, right?
Yeah, and I don't want to be glib about it. Obviously, we still need money to pay the bills. It's still an important thing we got to work out. But it's
Yeah.
just it's just making sure that we understand that that's a practicality
Mm,
that's not going to bring fulfillment. The fulfillment has to be somewhere else. That's just a practicality. You've got to find your
mhm.
fulfillment in building meaning in what you do for yourself as well,
Yeah.
and for others, obviously, because when you see it in others' faces that they're connected with something you've done, it's meant something to them.
Mm,
That's a feeling that you can't buy. There's no
mm,
amount of money in the world that could give you that.
mhm. Is that one of the things that you and Josh have connected on in order to be creative partners on a book? Does he share
Yeah.
some of these philosophies?
Yeah, I mean, I think we in some ways we're very different people. We do have different approaches to stuff, but I think we would both agree that like we get joy out of putting something out there that's going to help people on their path,
Hmm.
and I think us being able to write this thing and put it out there, we're already imagining the people who are going to get this thing in their hands
Mm,
and the responses we're going to get to it because it helped them. And I think that's something that's, yeah, I mean, it's anybody, right? I don't know, unless you're an incredibly cynical individual and
mm,
you just go, no, I'm just doing it for the cash. Like, of course that's what you're doing, right? Of course
mm.
that's what you're after at the end of the day. So yeah.
Um, I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but I know that you're likely sort
47.
of. How old are you?
47.
47. Okay, so you've crossed that 45-year mark, and
Hmm.
which as a person, we sometimes think of that as the halfway mark,
Right.
and that might sound kind of daunting, but I remember when I turned 45, it felt a little bit like that. I wanted to be very have purpose in how I lived my second part of my life, and the reason I ask you that is that, do you see yourself having a responsibility of being an elder? Now that you're not getting younger, you're getting more life experience,
Yeah.
and that does that add to your responsibility as being a person that's out there making a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think responsibility might be the wrong word in my case. I don't feel a responsibility. It's a
Hmm,
joy. Like,
hmm,
and I'm gonna say like I'm gonna say that I've always felt that way. Do you know what I mean? Like
hmm,
it's not
hmm.
getting older. Like the reason I became a pastor in my 20s was because I wanted that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to look back down the path where people were coming up behind me. And in my case, in my mid 20s, that was teenagers. How
Hmm,
can I
hmm,
help these kids along the path here? And now that I'm 47, that group behind me is just a bigger group. And as I go, that group will grow.
hmm.
And I it's what I'm meant to be doing. I've
Yeah,
always felt that. I think I've
hmm,
always been a little bit of an old soul, and that's always been a driving
yeah.
force. And why I've chosen the different parts of my life, from psychology to church to doing a YouTube channel now that's about
Hmm,
photography, but it's not about photography, right? It's definitely
yeah.
about other stuff. And there's that
Hmm,
flavor comes out of that. That there's a reason that's in there. The book has the flavor it does, and whatever I do next will come out of the reason I'm studying to be a counselor in the UK is because I can tell that's probably in my future somewhere. It's going to be a new
hmm,
mode that I'll be able to be that help or guide to people who are coming up behind who are struggling. And
hmm.
I just feel like that for me, I find that the most fulfilling part of what I do. And
Yeah.
yeah, it just doesn't feel like a responsibility, because sometimes I think responsibility can feel like a burden or something I should do.
Hmm.
You couldn't stop me doing it. Like
Yeah.
it really makes me happy. So yeah,
Well, what that means to me is that you've got your calling. It's
yeah,
something you've had since you were a young man, and you get to just do it differently, right? You're learning
yeah.
different techniques and modes to be able to do that.
Mhm.
You've got a trip that's happening in Morocco
Mhm.
coming up soon, and I saw the video, and I saw you went to do a recce, a
Mhm.
pre-scout of it, and it looks like a beautiful environment to spend time. The people that are going to sign up and come with you, are they coming? They're coming to learn. They're coming to maybe become better at photography, and so to learn technique and purpose and that sort of stuff. But are they going to come away with more than what they bargained for, like because they're coming with you, and or do they know that you're going to bring a certain level of counsel or meaningfulness or mindfulness?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think they're going to come away with more than they bargained for because of Morocco. To be honest, because it's such an astounding
Mm,
place. I think if you haven't been before, it
yeah.
will challenge how you think about the world in some really good ways. But
Mm,
I think this first trip we announced I mean, we announced it on Sunday night. It was sold out by Monday morning, so it's
mm,
already sold out. We're in the middle of planning another one for May next year, which people can book for. But yeah, I
right.
think most people who would hear about that trip. Um, will hear about it because they already know who I am. So they probably
Hmm.
know what to expect. That I'm gonna teach some photography, that's the point. But like I'm also gonna push you a bit more than that, and
Mm,
also get you, thinking about your experience and writing about it for yourself. The whole point of this trip that we're doing as well is we're not just doing street photography together, but by the end of the trip, we want to
mm,
take a collection of all our images and a collection of all our writing. We're going to get people to do a bit of writing as well, and actually
mm.
produce a zine by the end of the trip and teach
Wow.
people how to put a zine together for
Mm,
themselves. But
mm,
we'll actually be doing that with them, and then they'll get a printed copy of that too. So yeah, it's not just going to be what's the best f-stop to use. Do you know what I mean? It's
mhm,
going to
mhm,
be
mhm,
some of that stuff, but it's also going to be really sinking yourself into the experience of it and then reflecting
mm,
on it, writing on it, and then coming away with a tangible
mm,
artifact at the end of it.
mm. So, I asked you if you see yourself as an entrepreneur. I
Mm.
don't know if entrepreneur is the right word, and I don't know if creative entrepreneur is the right word or spiritual entrepreneur is the right word, but you're blending it all in.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's pretty cool, man. Yeah,
Thank you.
pretty
Yeah, I mean,
pretty.
and I have to, I don't go to church anymore, and
Yeah,
I still have a faith that's important to me, but it wouldn't fit into a church now, and I read far and
yeah.
wide. But I have to credit that time that I spent in the church with that, because
Mm-hmm.
I think it taught me what matters beyond the stuff on the surface, whatever that looks like for you. And I'm always trying to weave it back in. I could just teach people how to use a camera, and that's all I give you on that thing. But to me, I think I'm not a pastor anymore, but I kind of am. It's still what I'm doing, and I'm not trying to convert you to anything. I'm not trying to talk about a specific sort of spirituality or convince you of anything. I'm just trying to create space to have reflection that's about more than tell me what camera to buy. Yeah.
It's interesting. We have a photographer in Montreal. His name is Mike,
Mm.
and Mike is a very spiritual fellow. He's a Jehovah Witness,
Hmm.
and him and I talk sometimes. And I don't have a traditional faith, although I believe in the universe. And what I'll say to Mike is that I believe in the universe. You believe in God. You're kind of the same thing, right?
Hmm.
In a way, right? There's just
Hmm.
different views of it, and I always sort of say, we have a great opportunity to dent the universe in a good way or a bad way, and right now, as we all know, our world's a wee bit broken. Maybe it's always been a bit broken, but right now it feels really broken, and I think that when we are now doing things, you're doing projects, you're speaking to people, it's denting the universe in a very good way, and I hope that you can continue it. And it's yeah, I'm quite honored that we get to have this chat. It's pretty neat, man.
Oh, no worries. Thanks for the invite. Yeah.
Um, so we're getting, what are we at? What, 45 minutes, 50 minutes? How can people find out more about what you're doing? I know lots of people follow you on YouTube, but is there anywhere else that they can find out more?
Instagram, you got me here on Instagram. I think if you want to sort of see things a little broader, my website's the easiest. It's just Sean Tucker, SeanTucker dot photography is my website. So if you want to just sort of dig a bit deeper and see what else is going on, that's probably
Yeah.
the place to do it.
There's and if people want to support what you're doing, like you've got the parable, the e-zines,
Hmm.
the book. There's a lot of stuff that people can jump in and be and buy and support you on your journey. Maybe to finish things up, I'd like to ask you: is there a question, like, you've done lots of interviews, you've interviewed lots of people? Is there a question that you're almost surprised that people haven't asked you, or that you think would be an interesting question?
No, not really. No, I think I've had them all. No, no, I
That's
don't, no, I don't think so. No, no, not that I can think
the
of.
that's the answer. That's the
Yeah.
answer.
Hmm.
And you're not living in London right now. You're in the north part of England. Is that right?
Yeah, I moved up to North Yorkshire about 5 years ago now. So I love London, and I'm still down fairly regularly down to London. But I've never been a big city person to live in it, and I was
Mm,
always looking for the opportunity to get out. And when it came to a time that I could actually buy somewhere.
mm,
There's no ways I could afford anything in London anyway, so it was time to start looking around. And I've
yeah.
always loved York as a city up in
Mm,
North Yorkshire, and so I started looking around that city and eventually found a spot up here, it's right on
nice.
the edge of the North York Moors National Park, so it's just up the hill from
Mm,
me. And there's
mm,
forests and fields, and it's a beautiful part of the world, and it's good for the soul. That stuff, I think.
nice. Nice. I talked to Sissel about that whole concept, that she feels very more grounded being where she is now. It's just that she
Mm-hmm.
can do walks in forests, and it's I
Yeah.
think it's good for us, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we forget, when we're in a city, we're just kind of surviving and running a million miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I found myself always going down it was like a 45-minute walk in London down to Wimbledon Common, which is quite a big open green
Mm,
space with a bit of forest in it. So you could get in there and feel like you weren't in a city. And I just
yeah.
realized I was going so often. And I think it was just me saying, I need space. I just need to
Mm,
feel like I'm not in this all the time. So
mm.
yeah, being able to get out into space has been really good for me. Yeah.
Maybe a good place for us to sort of finish this is many people that are watching this are photographers, and they're always wanting to feel, find ways to be more creative or come up with new ideas. And one of the things that I pulled from your book is that one of the best ways is not to give yourself extra stimuli or extra information, but just quietness, like nothingness, like
Mm.
walk with. What was the gentleman that had you did a course, filmmaking course? You had to walk for
Werner Herzog.
a hundred
Yeah,
miles with no camera, right? You
yeah,
just had to go and be with yourself.
yeah.
That's a cool concept.
Yeah, and I practice it every day. So every day, first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I don't, check emails and turn the TV on or anything. I put my shoes on and I go for a walk, and it's an hour, at
Mm,
least an hour every morning before,
mm,
and then I'll get home and I'll have a shower and have a coffee to start the day. But it has to be, I have to start like out in the world with fresh air and just
mm,
time to think first, and it kind of settles. I think our brain often kicks a lot of stuff up in our dreams as well. And when we wake up, we can feel a little bit like on edge for some reason. You've got to work it through, or you're consciously carrying something that you know is bugging you, and you need to sort of sort that out. And I find
mm,
just walking and being present like that is,
mm,
I've never been patient enough to just sort of sit and meditate for half an hour.
mm.
So kind of walking for an hour in the morning, that becomes my meditation, just being
Of
out
course.
and letting your mind churn things over and think it
Mm,
through, rather
mm,
than what we often do is just keep ourselves busy so that that stuff just festers in the back and we don't drag it out into the
mm.
light of day to have a look at it and sort it out. So I find that super helpful.
Okay, so there you go. That's a great way to uh,
Cool.
to finish this on. Sean, thank you, my friend, and
You're
hopefully
welcome.
we get to meet in person someday.
Yeah, that'd be
Next time
great.
I'm in the UK, that would be great. And then if there's any way we can lend a hand with helping to amplify a bit of what you're up to, I'd love to do that. It's a very big part of what Headshots Matter is about. Is it's
Hmm.
really about just lending a hand, and sometimes to a lot of people at one time, and
Mm.
sometimes it's just to one person at a time. So I'd be happy
Cool.
to chat more about that. Okay, have
Thank
a
you.
great rest of your Thursday, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Lovely to chat to you. Cheers.
All
Take
right,
care.
okay, thanks a lot. Okay.
Bye.